theyeshiva.net.
169, yeah, Matos. We'll continue, believe that we'll be able to complete here the Inyan. We'll start from the parentheses. Parshas Matos, Pei Hey, column 1, page 169, you see? So it's the first column, maybe like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. 12 lines from the bottom. The line starts, Kol ha-isurim v'ha-kishurim, Asher Knesses Yisrael hi-asura ukshura, then the next line has a parenthesis. Okay? So now, I'm just going to repeat these few lines that we did, but I just want to repeat it so it will sum up the second half of the theme of the Maamer that we also discussed in the previous shir. It says, V'zeu shekosov. The line starts with Yamav, Chuli, end of parentheses. V'zeu shekosov. This is the meaning of the pasuk in Matos. Veshama Aviha esnidra. When her father hears about her neder, his daughter's neder, so he has the ability, he has the power to annul the promise, the neder. And the pasuk says, she carries no burden of responsibility to implement her neder. Why? Because Heini Aviha Isa. Her father dissuaded her, or influenced her, dissuaded her from the neder, or persuaded her to get rid of the neder. Heini Aviha Isa. Her father eliminated the neder for her. That's what the pasuk says. So now this is pshat. What does it represent? Like every pasuk and every mitzvah, there's also what it represents symbolically, emotionally, metaphysically, spiritually, and psychologically. So he says as follows: Ha'av meiferes haneder. The father undoes the neder. Ki mibchines averabba. Father embodies infinite. Averabba means not just regular love, but infinite love, excessive love, abundant love. Like we say in the morning, according to some of the nuschayos, averabba. Right? There's two ways of saying it: avas olam or averabba. So Tosfos and Brachas makes the pshara to say in the morning one and in the evening others. So usually in Nusach Sfar they say both times Avos Olam, but some in Nusach Ashkenaz they say Ava Rabba, and then at night Avos Olam. So the word Ava Rabba means tremendous love, excessive love. Mebchinas Ava Rabba hu Mefer kitargumay mevatel. The Targum says what's Mefer? Obliterates, mevatel nullifies. Kol ha isurim v'hakishurim. This is how he teaches Nedarim. All the knottings, the knots, Isurim. Isurim here doesn't mean prohibitions. Isurim here means from the word Asur, like Beis HaAsurim, confinements. And the word Asur means that. Asur really doesn't mean forbidden. The word Asur in Hebrew means Matir Asurim. He unties those who are bound, those who are chained. That's why it's called Asur, because I'm bound, I cannot do it. I'm, so to speak, in shackles. On a deeper level, the reason something is called Asur is because that thing is bound up. Something that's asur, I cannot elevate. I cannot reveal the godly spark in it. Something that's mutter, a fruit or a piece of food that's mutter, for example. Mutter means it's untied. What does it mean it's untied? This is what the Tanya says. The divine spark in it is not locked. It's unlocked. It's untied. In other words, I can extricate it. I could sublimate it. Something that's asur, the object is bound up, meaning the divinity is, so to speak, bound up. It's trapped. The angel is trapped in the marble. So therefore, I cannot extricate it. So the Torah says, don't eat it. So asur, al pi pshat, means I am bound. I am bound. Al pi nister, it means the object is bound. Here, he's using it as a symbolic idea. The person is bound up. Kol Yisurim, all the shackles, all the chains that knot you, the kishurim, you're tied up, you're knotted. Asher Knesses Yisrael hi-asura ukshura, that the community of Israel, represented by the daughter, not just the individual daughter, Klal Yisrael is called Hashem's daughter. They are bound up, they're often knotted. They are knotted, they feel tied. Ve'ein chavash matir atzmai, the prisoner, the Gemara says, cannot untie him, cannot matir atzmai, cannot undo, cannot free himself. Kiyim, who does he need? He needs Aidei Midas Avarabba Pchinas Aviyah. There's only one way to get the Chavush outside of Beis HaSurim, and that is through the attribute of Avarabba, of tremendous love. And that's what Aviyah represents. That's the Pchina represented by Aviyah. Not just talking about a biological father. The father represents enormous flow, an enormous experience and emotion of love towards the daughter, and that is the issue. The moment you have a father involved, now we're not worried about the neder. The father can help her undo the neder. Heini Aviyah Isa. Why? Because through the midah of Avarabba, through the tremendous love, the prisoner could get out of Beis HaSurim. And this is the Nekudah of the Hesber that we have been explaining, that the only way one can get out of the shackles is not by telling them that they have chains, and not even by telling them how horrible the chains are, and not by telling them that they have to get out of the chains, but by rather allowing them to feel more powerful than their chains. Allowing a person to feel more powerful than their chains, more powerful than their desperation, more powerful than their hopelessness, more powerful than their doubts, uncertainty, despair. How can I make a person feel more powerful? When they feel the value within themselves and the dignity within themselves as a result of the ahava that they're experiencing from their father. The inyan ha'isurim sheyasuda kshura behem. What are these isurim that we're talking about? These knots that the soul is knotted by, is confined by. Yesh loymar dahainu chlishas koyach hanefesh. You see, clearly he articulates what I've been saying. It means that the koyach hanefesh feels weak. The power of the soul is infinite, but the person may experience that the soul is weak. And when you're weak, naturally you're tied up, you feel confined, you feel inhibited, you feel limited. You don't have the creative freedom to explore, to transform, to soar, to fly. The koyach is weak, a person is weak mentally, or weak physically, or weak emotionally, or weak spiritually. They're lethargic, they're heavy. On a mental level, they're just heavy. She lacks the power, the stamina, and the vigor to go out of narteka. Narteka is the nartik,
It's a
nartik. It's case. It's very good. The nartik hashemesh. Yeah. It's basically, it's encased. A nartik can even be like a wallet, something that encases something, a box that encases something. So she is like encased in something, and it's boxed in, literally boxed in. She can't get out of it. Umasara of her prison. And when somebody's in that nartik, they just can't get in. I once heard of Vart. I don't know the original source. It's a very good Vart. In Balak, we see that there's different terms for curses. There's the famous term klala. Klala, right? There is arur. But then there's also, Balak tells Bilam, kava liyas ha'amazah. From the word kava, kuf veis hey, makaba lekabe kail. In other words, it's another concept of klala. And what's the root? The root of it is very strange. So Lavan tells Yaakov, Nokva alai scharcha ve'etena. Nokva alai scharcha ve'etena means establish, set aside, or determine what your wage is, and I'll give it to you. Sometimes the greatest curse is when we decide and we establish who we are and who we're not. We put ourselves into a box. That's the idea of kava. You define, this is who I am and this is who I'm not. This is what I'm capable of, this is what I'm not capable of. My marriage will forever be miserable. My relationship with my kids will never be good. I will never be able to be successful. I'll never be able to trend. I'll never be able to be a not angry person. I'll never be able to be this. I'll never be able to be that. Whatever it is, a person puts themselves in to a fixed situation, a nartik. Yaakov hadin esahar. This is what it is. And as a result of that, it's really, the person remains in that box. So, the soul is weak. It cannot get out of the meiser. This is chumrius haguv nefesh habahamis. The biggest prison for it is the bruteness. Chumrius is the bruteness of the body and the animal soul, which on a spiritual level can sometimes completely eclipse what exists in a neshama. This prison is explained elsewhere in another discourse, which begins with the words B'chodesh HaShlishi in Yisra. Vesham Nizbar, there was explained the Torah gives the power to the soul to nullify, to obliterate these knots. Elsewhere it's explained the kishurim elu nikra sirchas b'raya mehemna shanefesh mistabeches behem. If you learned Hilchas Treifus, you know there's a concept called sircha. We all know there's something called glat kosher. What's glat kosher? So I saw once a pizza shop and it had a sign on it, glat kosher. It was very humorous because the person thought glat kosher means it's extra kosher. So why not put on a pizza shop the words glat kosher? Of course, the very word glat kosher could only refer to deli, not dairy, because glat represents the concept called a sircha. Sircha means, in English, it's called an adhesion. Basically, let's take a sirchas hareya, adhesion of the lungs. If there's when the shaycha checks out the animal and he sees that there's a part of the lung, right, a little strip of the lung that goes over and it connects. It has an adhesion. It's connected to another part of the lung. So the question is, what caused it to grow, or what's under that? So sometimes you rub it a little bit with your finger. You rub it with your finger and it's glat, it's smooth, there's no sirchas, so that's glat, it's completely smooth. The problem if it's not smooth, how do you deal with it? So that's Pashat and Halach. Now you have in Raya Mehemna, which is a section of the Zohar, he calls sircha kishurim. Basically, you're knotted up, you're not glat. You have a person who's glat. Glat means you're smooth, you're just smooth. You are what you are. But what happens if I'm entangled? I'm full of knots. You ever meet a person who's full of knots? Everything is knotted. There's nothing that's smooth. Everything is entangled and enmeshed and obscured and confused and connected with somebody else and something else. It's like almost you could see a face that's full of knots, or a system that's full of knots. That's called sirchus. So the Raya Mehemna says, "Hanefesh mistabeches behem." The soul mistabeches. Mistabeches means it gets entangled in them. You know where the word comes, right? V'hinei ayil acher nechaz basvach bekarnov. The ayil in its horns, it was caught up in the thicket of the bushes. So it became misubach. You'll say, this is a sugya misubeches. It's a complicated, nuanced, complex sugya. You go in and you don't come out. It's a maze. You get stuck. So some people's lives are like mazes. They themselves get stuck. You go in one way, you get lost. You don't know where you're coming out. There's nothing glat. Everything is entangled. A regular telephone conversation is already entangled. So this is the concept of sirchas. So basically, with the sircha, you can't fly because you're knotted. Imagine a bird, literally a bird, and the wings of the bird are tied to a rock, and the bird is trying to soar, but it can't. That's called a sircha. So the soul is a bird. The soul was destined to fly. But if the soul has sirchas, if the soul has a bunch of ropes that hold it down, it can't fly. It doesn't even know that it's capable of flying. So it can't go up. And this is explained in Dibur HaMaschil Pirush HaPasuk, Mi Kel Kamoich. V'yesh loymar, you could say here a gewaldige chiddush. Shahafaras nedarim b'yom HaKippurim. This is the secret of nullifying the nedarim on Yom Kippur. Hainu, what this means is shayidei hatshuva. Through tshuva of Yom Kippur, nimshach b'chines hafaras ubitul hakishur. What tshuva is supposed to accomplish is obliterating and nullifying, eliminating all the knots, all the nedarim. V'gilui ha'averabba b'nefesh. By revealing the tremendous love of the soul, the tremendous love of the neshama has to Hashem, and that Hashem has to the neshama, and by revealing that love of the Father, which happens on Yom Kippur, what's the first thing you do on Yom Kippur is, you nullify all the nedarim. And here we get a extraordinary insight with something that would seem quite perplexing. You'll ask a Jew, what's the holiest tefillah of the year? And every Jew will say, Kol Nidre. And even Jews who show up, or never show up to anything, but Kol Nidre, there is a feeling that people who are not around the whole year, they show up for Kol Nidre. What makes Kol Nidre the holiest tefillah of the year? So generally most will understand because it's the beginning of Yom Kippur, and Yom Kippur is the holiest day of the year, and this is the entrance into Yom Kippur. But Kol Nidre is called the holiest tefillah. Why do we do Kol Nidre in the beginning of Yom Kippur? Really, it's not part of the tefillah of Yom Kippur. After Kol Nidre, we're going to make a Shechiyanu. After Kol Nidre, you start Ma'ariv, and then there's different piyutim, Yalu Tachananenu, the other piyutim, and then you finish with Aleinu. Kol Nidre essentially is not part of the genre or of the experience of Yom Kippur. It doesn't talk about tshuva, it's not a davening. What is Kol Nidre essentially? Kol Nidre is a statement. Kol Nidre ve'asare ve'charame ve'kainame ve'chisuya. Basically, you're saying all of the pledges, all of the oaths, all of the promises, all of the commitments. The asarna al-nafshasana. Any pledge and promise and oath and acceptance and yoke that I accept on myself from this Yom Kippur till the next Yom Kippur. So what am I asking? I'm making a declaration. And the declaration is that everything should be shvikin, shvisim, ptelin, talin, lashirin, v'lakayim, should all be obliterated and nullified. Nidrana la nidre, esarana la asari, shvosana la shvos. My promises are not promises. My prohibitions that I prohibit on myself are not prohibitions. My oaths are not oaths. We come to see Yom Kippur. So the Rishonim talk about this. It's not a pashut thing. This is a complicated sugya in halacha. The Torah and other Rishonim, it's a complicated sugya. Some folks were even against it. But the point is that the Chazal, Hataras Nedarim are a serious issue. What's the best time to make Hataras Nedarim? When everybody's in shul, because then you include everybody. When is the time that people are most frequently in shul? Yom Kippur. So that's why they instituted that before the year starts, obliterate all the Nedarim. Now some used to say Kol Nidre on the past Nedarim of the previous year. And Rabbi Tam came out against it. So most Nuschayas Kol Nidre changed to the future. So basically what I'm saying is that if I promise you in middle of January, if I make a promise that I'm going to give you X, Y, Z, don't take it seriously. I already obliterated it on Yom Kippur. If I make a promise, no more cheesecake, and I'm starting a diet tomorrow after the Bar Mitzvah, don't take it seriously. So even if I don't say Bli Neder, already Yom Kippur, I already said, it doesn't mean anything. It's not a Neder, and that way nobody is nichshel in the Isur of Layachal Dvarei. Why? Because they already obliterated it. So why Yom Kippur? Because everybody comes to shul. That's why we do it the first thing on Yom Kippur. Why is it the first thing? Because you're not supposed to do Hataras Nedarim on Shabbos and Yom Tov. Yom Kippur is Shabbos. So therefore you do it before Shabbos. Usually you're supposed to start Kol Nidre before sunset. The problem is usually the appeal takes too long and the sermon takes even longer. So some people do Kol Nidre very late. Okay, so but the evidence it's fine. But L'chatchilel Kol Nidre is supposed to be said before Shkia because you're supposed to do Hafaras Nedarim before Yom Kippur. So here you have an interesting phenomenon. Yom Kippur really came into Yom Kippur. Kol Nidre came into Yom Kippur really from the back door. It's not part of Yom Kippur. It's not connected to Yom Kippur. And nonetheless, somehow everything has mazel. Aleinu has the mazel that it's at the end of davening. People say it on the way out. Kol Nidre, which is almost incidental, made it into the beginning of Yom Kippur. And some people only stay for Kol Nidre. They leave. There's no tefillah. There's no bakasha. Then you have what's even stranger is the melody of Kol Nidre. As I said in another shir, the melody of Kol Nidre is, everybody knows, is a heart-stirring melody. And most people, it's good that they don't understand what Kol Nidre means, because it's Aramaic. But if you'll take an English machzer, and you'll try to study and read the words while you're doing the melody, any normal person will be quite perturbed by what in the world is the connection between this heart-stirring, impassioned melody that has ripped the Jewish heart apart for millennia, and gave it this sense of mystique and mystery, the aura of Yom Kippur, and you're reading the lyrics and you don't know what the connection is. So some associate it with the fact that Kol Nidre came to represent the Spanish Anusim, the Spanish Jews who en masse converted to Christianity during the 1300s and the 1400s as a result of the Christian conquest of Spain, the Marranos, and the Anusim is probably a better word. And they were, of course, Christians their whole life, the whole year, but they used to celebrate Judaism in private. And many were burnt on the stake when the Inquisition tortured them and murdered and burnt them and so forth. So we say in the beginning of before Kol Nidre, Aldasa Makam, Aldasa Kol, B'Yeshiva Shalman, B'Yeshiva Shman, Anu Material Ispalim Avaryana. We allowed us to join tefillah even with Jews who are transgressors. So Kol Nidre came for them to represent that the promise they made to the church, that they're Catholics, that they're loyal Christians, the promise means nothing. because really they're Jews. That would explain some of the emotion embedded in Kol Nidre, because it's not just a legal formula about the promises I'm going to make to you about cheesecake, or about going on a diet, or about not doing this or doing that, or spending time with my kids every night, and all those beautiful promises, but it rather touches a very sore moment in Jewish history, because there weren't only a few Jewish converts, according to Prime Minister Netanyahu's father, Ben-Sia Netanyahu, who wrote excessively on it. There's some who say that there were close to 600,000 Jews who left Judaism in order to avoid death and persecution. So those are huge numbers. You also had a few 100,000 Jews who left on Tisha B'Av, 1492. Okay, but it's still difficult. And here, it's really a tremendous revelation that the Baal HaTanya reveals, that Kol Nidre actually captures Yom Kippur. It captures the essence of Yom Kippur. And otherwise, it's really hard to understand. I mean, you'll just to illustrate it and visualize it, okay? I want you to think about it in these terms, so you'll appreciate what he's saying. Take the last words of Kol Nidre. Nidrana la nidre asarana la asarish v'osana la shvuos. Now take the song of Kol Nidre and put it to these words and do it in English. Not only is it strange, it almost seems absurd and beyond absurd. Okay, imagine somebody comes up to you and goes, my promises are no promises, and my pledges are no pledges, and my oaths are no oaths. Wow. This is the whole Kol Nidre. And then how it starts. All my promises and all my pledges. Lo shirid, they're null and they non-existent. So you're getting up basically and saying, don't take my words at all seriously. I don't mean what I say. Even when I say it, I don't mean it. Okay, maybe it's a good thing to do. But let's put it in proportions. So the emes is that here we're zoiche to have a whole new, deeper hashkafa of what Kol Nidre is. Essentially, Kol Nidre is Yom Kippur. It's the essence of Yom Kippur. Because Yom Kippur is a day of transformation. And the prerequisite to all transformation is to get rid of your knots. To get rid of the oaths that you make to yourself more than anybody else about what you're capable of and what you're not capable of. Every one of us lives in a neder. It's not a neder of a promise I make I won't do this. It's an existential neder. Basically, I feel bound. Ask yourself, what are the 10 most paralyzing factors in your life? What are your knots? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 things. Imagine if you had absolutely no limitations, and no fears, and no baggage, and no pekalach, and no history, and no difficulty with this person or that person, and no shame, whatever it is. What would you be doing different? How would your life be different? Every person has their nedarim, and those nedarim are defining. They literally clip our wings. They don't, like he says, they don't let you fly. They're sirchus. They simply clip your wings. They tie down your wings. You can't fly. What's Yom Kippur? Yom Kippur is the day that the Jew experiences or can experience the infinite love of the father to the daughter. The tremendous love of Hashem to the Jew. And when you can experience that love, in other words, you can feel your own infinity, your own dignity, your own value, the first thing you say is, now listen, Nidirana la nidrei. Now it makes sense. All my promises to myself, what I could never be, or what I could never do. All the oaths. If you would ask me on a regular day, do you know yourself? I say, yeah. Can you swear that you know yourself? Yeah. So tell me who you are, and you tell me who you are if you trust me. Or your therapist, whoever you tell who you are. And your therapist says, swear that this is who you are. And you swear that this is who you are. And suddenly Yom Kippur comes, and you look in the mirror existentially and you say, there's so much more to me. There's so much more to me. So what's the first thing you have to do? You have to undo your own oaths. Your own shavua. about who you are, or who you could be, who you will be, another Yom Kippur comes and bites the dust. Another year comes and bites the dust. Those oaths for the whole year you're going to make. Because Yom Kippur, it's easy. You're on a high. You're fasting. But the day after Yom Kippur, the day after Tishrei, it's all over. So you say, Yom Kippurim zeh, till the next Yom Kippur. Every day I'm going to make a neder. I'm this, I'm that, I'm not that, I'm not that. My wife is this, my wife is that, my kids are this. I have this psyche, I have this mindset. Every person. Again, physically, psychologically, emotionally, spiritually. You don't recognize the infinity of your neshama. The koyach haboire that exists in your soul. The chelik elokam. Why? Because it's encased, it's eclipsed. There's a shell around it. And therefore it's bound up. So on Yom Kippur I say, till the next Yom Kippur, don't take my nedarim seriously. I'm going to make them. I will find excuses for everything. Because there's something beautiful in being paralyzed. Because then I could blame everybody else. There's something nice about being a victim, let's face it. I don't have to do anything. I could be a prisoner. There's something beautiful about being an emotional prisoner. You say it's your wife, your shviga, your rebbe, your community, your this, your that. Of course you're a victim, you're a prisoner. The moment you recognize your power, now suddenly you take responsibility for your life. Who wants to do that? Who wants to take responsibility for their life? It's always easier to pass the buck and say it's everybody else's fault. So I say, I know I'm going to do it. But Yom Kippur, I'm a vatal. That's what he says. So Yom Kippur, Hafaras Nedarim Yom Kippur is because the tshuva of Yom Kippur is mevatel all the knots. Tshuva is, through tshuva, you have the bittul of all the knots. That's what tshuva means. Return to your true self. Transformation. Interesting halacha on Yom Kippur. V'lavash hakoyen midei v'ad u'michnei sevat. V'rachas es psari, he takes off the begadim. The pasuk says v'hinicham, he places them. So the Gemara learns out of Masechta Yuma that a kohen is not allowed to use the begadim that a kohen gadol, the begadim that he used one Yom Kippur, is not allowed to use the next Yom Kippur. Now it's a fascinating halach. Regular begadim of a kohen gadol that he used every day, he could use for years until they decay. He could use them. The begadim of Yom Kippur used once a year. Why baltashchas? Use them the next Yom Kippur. Put them away. Use them. No. The halach is every year he has to use the new begadim. So the pshat is, because it represents something. Yom Kippur is a time of newness. You don't come with old baggage. You don't come with old garments. You don't say, these are my begadim, this is how I dress. It's a new Yom Kippur. So tshuva allows you to obliterate all the nedarim, and that's why he says it brings forth the gilui ha'avar rabba shabanefesh. The tremendous love that exists in the soul, and the love that exists from Hashem to the soul. And when the daughter feels her father's love, then the nedarim go away. That's the secret of Kol Nidre. And that's a very profound experience that a Jew has in the beginning of Yom Kippur, and it really encapsulates all Yom Kippur. Everything in Yom Kippur is an outgrowth of Kol Nidre. Now the melody and the lyrics not only match, but they're reflective of each other. They mirror each other. There's another nekuda in the father nullifying the neder. Al derech mashakasu bezoya Parshas Emer. Gabi bezman de notle mebei abbe volei bezman de notle mebei ima. The Zoya speaks about a time that you go to take the food from Tati and not from Mami. Usually food comes from Mami. That's where you get the good stuff. But there's a time you go to father and not to mother. So it explains, father is represented by Chachma. Mother is represented by Bina. Father contributes the seed, and mother develops the seed. Chachma is the seminal spark of wisdom, and Bina is the development. He says, "Mebchinas habina v'hadas." From Bina and Das Mami, nimshach liyas eskafis etracher. From here you have the power to subdue unholiness. From the word koifa. V'zeu inyan nedarim siag leprecious. This is what it says in Pirkei Avos. Nedarim are a good thing because they're a siag, they're a friends for precious. If you want to stay away from certain things, it's good to make a neder, like a nazir. Avaliyas is hapchech hashaycha mamash l'nahira. But to nullify the neder means you transform darkness into light. You don't stay away from it, you engage it. This can't happen from Bina. Shemina dinin misarin. From Bina we say in Kegavna, we say in Zoyar, from Bina comes dinim, stern judgment. Here you have to go to Chachma. Chachma, the pasuk says in Mishlei, HaChachma techaya ba'aleha. Shlomo HaMelech says, Chachma gives life. V'hu habitul shalamayla me'asaga v'das. This is the oneness that transcends intellectual comprehension. V'zeu sha'ov meifiru mahapich ha'sheichel l'nahir. There's two stages in life. There's the stage when you make a neder, and there's a stage when you do hataras nedar. Neder is a good thing, but it represents weakness. I stay away. Why? Because I can't engage you. That's what a neder is. A neder is, I'm not touching this. Why am I not touching it? Because if I touch it, it's dangerous. And that's an important stage in life. But then there's a deeper stage in life. And that is, you don't have to run away, but you can transform. And it's two different stages in life. Sometimes you have to run away, and sometimes you're healthy enough to be able to face it and confront it and use it in a positive way. So nedarim is stage one. Hafaras nedarim, bittul nedarim is stage two. That the person is ready to come back and face the world rather than run away from it. You don't have to go into isolation. You don't have to segregate from all Gashmis. You don't have to say the world is a treifa place, I'm not touching it. When you're an addict, you have to. Because if not, you're going to fall. But when you are in a powerful state, and you have to know that you're in a powerful state, now you could do something deeper. And that's mother and father. Basically, in Avodas Hashem, this is the difference between the state of Bina and the state of Chachma. In the state of Chachma, there's a deeper sense of oneness with the divine, and therefore the person could transform the darkness. That's why the father, representing Chachma, could be Mahapech HaSheichel L'Nahir. Ach Pirish Veshama Aviha Nidra. But the pasuk says he first hears about the neder. He doesn't just nullify it. Hainu shayidei iskafia betchilash zeu inyan hanedarim mizen nimshach achak achkili b'chinas avi eliyas es hapach hasheichel l'nahir. First he has to hear the neder, and then he could nullify it. In other words, only when a person has the courage to do iskafia can they then reach the state of ishapach. If a person thinks that they're right away going to transform, they may fall prey to it. Only when he could first hear the neder. In other words, appreciate the value of the neder. Then there could be stage B, when the state of the father is revealed, and the ishapach hasheichel l'nahir. And this is l'chayr also part of Yom Kippur, that Yom Kippur, a person essentially is segregated from the world, but nonetheless Yom Kippur creates the power of Veshama Aviha Nidra. There could be the revelation of Chachma at the end of Yom Kippur, Ne'ilah, which then brings a person into Sukkot and so forth, where the ultimate kavanah is not only disengagement, but the ultimate kavanah is to go back. We see the Mishnah says at the end of in Masechta Yuma, that the Kohen Gadol used to go home at Yom Kippur. He used to make a Yom Tif, B'tseisei b'shalom and HaKodesh. He used to go home and make a Yom Tif. And the Rambam brings in Hilchos Avodas Yom Kippurim that the Kohen Gadol used to go home after the Avodah. The Mefarshim say, why does the Rambam bring it? What's the halacha? There's no halacha here. What's the halacha? He goes home. Where should he go? To bowling alley? Where should he go Mitzvah Yom Kippur? Pshat is, that's the halacha. The halacha is from Yom Kippur you have to go home. Because from Nedarim you go to a deeper level, which is Hafaras Nedarim.
This class is brought to you by the yeshiva.net. Please help us continue the classes. Make even a small contribution at www.theyeshiva.net/donate.